Commander William Carter stood alone by the wide window of Earth's last working space station. His tired eyes looked down at the burning planet below. 3 months ago, aliens called Vrexians had attacked Earth without warning. Now, most of the blue planet was covered in smoke and fire. William ran his hand through his gray hair and sighed. He was 55 years old and had spent 30 years in Earth's space forces. Never in his life had he imagined seeing his homeworld like this. The door behind him slid open. Lieutenant Susan Miller walked in, holding a computer tablet. Her uniform was dirty and torn, and dark circles showed under her eyes. No one had slept much since the attacks began. "Sir, I have the latest reports," she said. William nodded without turning away from the window. "Tell me." "We can't contact Pacific Command anymore. The Asian bases report losing 80% of their people. Europe..." Her voice broke a little. "Europe is gone, sir." William closed his eyes for a moment. Billions of people had died in the past 3 months. The Vrexians had not come for Earth's land or resources. They seemed to only want to kill humans. Humans had only recently started to work together as one planet. For 30 years, the nations of Earth had been at peace, building small bases on Mars and Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. They had just begun to explore the solar system when the alien ships appeared near Pluto. The aliens had ignored all attempts to communicate. They had flown past military bases and instead dropped bombs on cities full of regular people. It made no sense. Why kill billions of humans but leave most of Earth's military alone? William turned to face Susan. "What about Project Nemesis? Is it ready?" Susan's tired face hardened. "Yes, sir. Dr. Alan Wright says the system is working. We can send the signal whenever you give the order." William walked to a large screen on the wall and touched it. The image changed to show a huge alien ship near Jupiter. The Vrexian mothership was the center of their attack force. The aliens thought they had won, that humans were too broken to fight back. They were wrong. "Send the message to all human bases that are still working," William said. "Tell them, remember Earth." Susan nodded. "What about the Galactic Council members? The aliens who refused to help us when we asked?" The Galactic Council was a group of many alien races that controlled most of the Milky Way galaxy. When the Vrexians first appeared, Earth had sent messages begging for help. The Council had ignored them. William's eyes turned cold. "Make sure they see everything that happens next." In a hidden base under the South Pole ice, Dr. Alan Wright checked his equipment. One last time. Project Nemesis was the work of his lifetime. For 20 years, he had led a secret group of scientists who prepared for the possibility that first contact with aliens might not be peaceful. "All systems are working," he told his small team. "The quantum network is online." His assistant, Karen Powell, looked up from her screen. "Signal strength is at 100%. We are connected to every piece of Earth technology that contains our special chips." Project Nemesis was a simple but clever plan. For years, all technology made on Earth had included tiny special parts that could receive a signal through quantum space. These parts were so small and seemed so unimportant that most people didn't know they existed. When the Vrexians attacked, they captured Earth technology and studied it. They copied parts of it to use in their own machines. They never noticed the hidden quantum receivers waiting silently in every device. Now those receivers were ready to act. "The Vrexians have used our technology in their ships, weapons, and even in the implants inside their bodies," Alan explained to a new team member. "Won't they detect our signal?" the young scientist asked. Alan shook his head. "They think it's just background noise from space. Their arrogance is their weakness." In another room, 3 military officers watched a screen showing the Vrexian other ship. General Frank Woods, the highest-ranking military leader still alive, spoke into a microphone. "This is General Woods to all remaining Earth forces. In 1 hour, we launch Operation Nemesis. All ships pull back to safe positions now." Around the solar system, the few working human ships began moving away from Vrexian forces. The aliens, sure of their victory, paid little attention to these movements. On Mars, in the small human colony dug into the red planet's surface, Governor Richard Hayes gathered the 5,000 colonists in the main hall. Today we fight back, he told the crowd. Today we show the galaxy that humanity will not die quietly. A woman in the front raised her hand. But there are only a few thousand of us left. How can we fight their entire empire? Richard smiled, grimly. Sometimes the smallest stone causes the biggest avalanche. Back on the space station, William Carter watched the clock counting down. In his 30 years of service, he had never imagined giving an order that would kill millions of beings. But the Vrexians had killed billions of humans without mercy or reason. "Signal is ready to send, sir," Susan said quietly. William looked at the pictures of Earth's ruined cities on the screens around him. He thought of his wife and daughter who had died when the aliens bombed Boston in the first wave of attacks. "Humanity is always prepared for the worst while hoping for the best," he said. "Send the signal." Susan pressed the button. Across the solar system, a quantum signal invisible to Vrexian sensors shot through space. It reached every piece of Earth technology, including those now part of Vrexian systems. On the big screen, William watched as small explosions began to appear across the surface of the Vrexian mothership. Operation Nemesis had begun. Earth's revenge was underway. The Vrexians were about to learn that destroying humanity was the biggest mistake they could have made. High Counselor Zexteral shifted in his seat as he watched the Vrexian Ambassador Kroll address the Galactic Council. The Grand Chamber was filled with beings from over 200 different alien species. They sat in rising tiers of seats that circled the central speaking platform where Kroll now stood. Zexteral's blue skin wrinkled around his 3 eyes as he frowned. The Vrexians had always been aggressive in expanding their territory, but the Council rarely interfered with how empires treated primitive planets like Earth. "The species known as humans has been properly dealt with," Ambassador Kroll was saying. His voice boomed through the chamber. "Their resources now serve the Vrexian Empire, as is right for such an undeveloped world." The council members murmured, in agreement. Most believed that species who had not yet developed faster than light travel were fair targets for more advanced civilizations. Earth had barely managed to reach its own moon and establish small bases on nearby planets. In the eyes of the Galactic Council, humans were little more than clever animals. Only one voice had spoken for Earth. Patricia Garcia, Earth's last ambassador, had begged the Council to stop the Vrexian attack. She had warned them that humans were more resourceful and dangerous than they appeared. The Council had laughed at her claims. Now Patricia sat alone at the back of the chamber. She wore a simple black suit, mourning for her planet. None of the other representatives spoke to her or even looked her way. To them, she represented a species that would soon be forgotten. Ambassador Kroll continued his speech, his forearms moving in grand gestures. The humans had no valuable technology, no worthy culture, and no strategic importance. Their removal was necessary for the proper order of the galaxy. Patricia's small communication device lit up in her pocket. She took it out carefully so no one would notice. On the screen was a simple message. "Remember Earth. It begins." For the first time in months, Patricia smiled. In a secret base on Earth's moon, Major John Harris watched as the quantum signal spread through space. On his screen, small dots of light showed where the signal was activating Earth technology that had been captured by the Vrexians. "Signal reaching Vrexian fleet near Saturn," reported his communications officer, Lisa White. "Activation in 3, 2, 1. On the screen, dozens of Vrexian warships suddenly stopped moving. Then, one by one, they began to explode. "Signal reaching Mars outpost," Lisa continued. "Vrexian ground forces reporting system failures." John Biu nodded grimly. "What about the mothership?" "Signal penetrating outer defenses now. Their shields are failing." The massive Vrexian mothership had over 1 million Vrexians on board, including their highest military leaders. When Earth's scientists had discovered that the aliens were using copied Earth technology in their most important systems, the plan for Project Nemesis had been born. "Send the video feed to Ambassador Garcia," John ordered. "Make sure the Council sees what happens next." Back in the Council chamber, Ambassador Kroll was reaching the end of his speech. The human problem has been solved, and the Vrexian Empire will now... He suddenly stopped and clutched at his chest. A small device implanted under his skin was starting to burn. All around the chamber, the personal devices of council members began to emit strange sounds. The massive screens on the walls flickered and then showed images of Vrexian ships exploding throughout the solar system. "What is happening?" demanded High Counselor Zex Terrell, standing up in alarm. Patricia Garcia rose from her seat. All eyes turned to her as she walked slowly to the center of the chamber. "Earth is happening," she said clearly. The council members watched in horror as the screens showed the Vrexian mothership breaking apart from within. Escape pods launched in all directions, but many exploded before they could get away. "Impossible," gasped a council member. The humans had no weapons that could reach across space. Patricia stood tall in the center of the chamber. "We tried to tell you that humanity is not what you thought. For 30 years we prepared for first contact. We hoped for peace but planned for war." She activated a small projector that showed Commander William Carter standing on his space station. "Galactic Council," William said, his voice cold. "You watched billions of humans die and did nothing. Now you will watch as those who killed us face justice." On the main screens, the Vrexian mothership was completely destroyed. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy of Vrexian technology failing on hundreds of planets. "What have you done?" whispered Zexus Terrell, his 3 eyes wide with fear. Patricia looked at him steadily. "Every piece of technology made on Earth for the past 20 years contained tiny quantum receivers. When the Vrexians studied our technology and copied parts of it, they brought these receivers into their own systems." Another council member stood up. "But how could a signal reach across such distances? Our scientists say quantum communication is impossible." "Your scientists were wrong," Patricia replied simply. "Humans have always pushed beyond what others thought possible. It's what makes us dangerous." In the conference room behind the main chamber, several council members gathered in panic. They represented the most powerful species in the galaxy, but now they were afraid. "We must cut all ties with Vrexian technology," said one, a tall insect-like being. "It's too late," said another. "Most of our systems have Vrexian components which contain human technology. The signal is spreading through our networks." On screens throughout the station, they could see Vrexian ships and bases self-destructing. Across the galaxy, an empire that had stood for 5,000 years was collapsing in minutes. Patricia Garcia entered the conference room. The council members fell silent. "The quantum signal is specifically targeted to affect only Vrexian military systems," she explained. "Your civilian technology is safe, though there may be some disruptions as the signal passes through your networks." "You could have destroyed us all," said Zexa Terrell, looking at her with new respect and fear. Patricia nodded. "We could have. That's something you should remember about humans. We prefer mercy when possible, but we are capable of terrible vengeance when pushed too far." Back on the lunar base, Major John Harris watched the reactions of the council members on his screen. The plan was working better than they had hoped. Not only were the Vrexians being defeated, but the council was now seeing humanity's true power. "Message from Commander Carter," Lisa reported. "He says to prepare for Phase 2. John nodded. "Tell the Mars colony to launch the diplomatic ships. It's time to negotiate from a position of strength." The few surviving human leaders had agreed. They would not seek to destroy the Galactic Council. Instead, they would use this demonstration of power to secure humanity's place among the stars. With most of Earth in ruins, humans would need allies to rebuild. In the council chamber, Patricia activated another message from Commander Carter. "The Vrexian Empire attacked us without cause and killed billions of innocent humans," he said. "Their punishment is just and necessary. But humanity does not seek endless war. We offer peace to all species who recognize our right to exist." The council members looked at each other in confusion. They had expected the humans to continue their attack, to seek revenge against the council for its inaction. "We are sending representatives to discuss terms," Carter continued. "Humanity wishes to join the Galactic Council as equals, not as victims or conquerors." Patricia watched the reactions of the alien representatives. Some showed fear, others respect, and a few seemed angry. But all of them now understood that humans could not be dismissed as primitive or weak. Earth's revenge has only begun, Patricia told them. But how it continues depends on your next actions. Choose wisely. As the council debated what to do, news spread across the galaxy. The supposedly primitive humans had destroyed the mighty Vrexian Empire in a single day. Every spacefaring species was now reevaluating their understanding of humanity. No one would underestimate Earth again. Dr. Alan Wright looked at his computer screen with tired eyes. For 3 days straight, he had monitored the spread of the quantum signal across the galaxy. Project Nemesis was working better than anyone had expected. "Status report," he said, to his assistant Karen Powell. Karen looked up from her screen. Her blonde hair was tied back in a messy ponytail, and coffee stains marked her lab coat. None of them had slept much since they had sent the signal. 98% of Vrexian military systems have been destroyed, she reported. Their main fleet is gone. Their ground forces are in chaos. The Vrexian Empire is effectively finished. Alan nodded slowly. For 20 years he had led the secret project to develop quantum communication. The politicians had given him funding to create faster ways to talk between planets. But Alan and a small group of scientists had also created a weapon just in case. "And civilian casualties?" he asked quietly. Karen checked another screen. "Minimal. The signal only affected military systems as designed." Alan sighed with relief. Even after what the Vrexians had done to Earth, he had not wanted to kill innocent civilians. The Vrexian people had not decided to attack Earth. Their leaders had. The underground laboratory was one of the few places on Earth that had survived the alien attacks. Built under the Antarctic ice, it was hidden from orbital scans. Only 50 scientists and engineers lived here now, working around the clock to maintain the quantum network. Alan stood up and stretched his back. He was 62 years old and had spent half his life working on quantum physics. When he started, most scientists thought quantum entanglement could never be used for practical communication. They were wrong. "What about the Galactic Council?" he asked. "Any response yet?" Karen checked the communications panel. "Ambassador Garcia reports that they're in emergency session. Most council members are terrified. They thought we were primitive, and now they've seen what we can do." "Good," Alan said. "Fear is sometimes necessary for respect." He walked to the large window that looked out into the main laboratory. 20 engineers were working on the quantum transmitter, a device smaller than a refrigerator that had sent the signal across light years of space. In the early days of the project, they had discovered something incredible. Quantum particles could be linked across any distance, instantly. There was no delay, no matter how far apart they were. This discovery had changed everything. "Dr. Wright," called one of the engineers. "We're getting a strange reading from Sector 7. Alan hurried over to look at the screen. Sector 7 was where the Galactic Council's main station was located. "Some kind of blocking signal," the engineer explained. "Something is trying to interfere with our quantum network." Alan frowned. This was unexpected. "Can they stop our signal?" "No," the engineer said. "But they might be able to trace it back to us." This was a problem. While most of the Vrexian forces were destroyed, there were still some ships that might attack Earth again if they discovered the source of the signal. Alan returned to his office and pressed a button on his desk. "This is Dr. Wright. I need to speak with Commander Carter immediately." A minute later, Commander William Carter's face appeared on the screen. He looked even more tired than Alan felt. "What's wrong?" William asked. "Someone at the Galactic Council is trying to trace our signal," Alan explained. "They can't block it, but they might find us. I recommend we move to Phase 3. William nodded grimly. "Agreed. I'll inform Ambassador Garcia. Begin Phase 3 in 1 hour." Phase 3 was the final part of Project Nemesis. It would change the quantum signal from an attack mode to a defense mode. Instead of destroying technology, it would create a shield around what remained of human territory. Back at the Galactic Council station, Ambassador Patricia Garcia stood before the Emergency Council. Representatives from 50 major species were present, all looking at her with a mixture of fear and anger. "The human attack must stop," demanded the representative from the Zindi Collective, a powerful alliance of 5 species. "Your quantum weapon threatens all technology in the galaxy." Patricia stood tall, though she was tired and grieving for her planet. "The weapon targets only Vrexian military systems. No other species has been directly attacked." "But the signal passes through our networks," said another representative. "It causes disruptions and could damage sensitive equipment." Patricia nodded. "We understand your concerns. That is why we are willing to negotiate." High Counselor Zex Taral raised his 3-fingered hand for silence. The chamber quieted immediately. "Ambassador Garcia," he said formally, "the Council recognizes that humanity has suffered greatly at the hands of the Vrexians. We also recognize that your species has demonstrated unexpected technological capabilities." He paused, his 3 eyes blinking in sequence. "However, your attack on the Vrexians affects innocent species throughout the galaxy. We demand that you stop the quantum signal immediately." Patricia smiled slightly. This was exactly what they had expected. The Council was not truly concerned about innocent lives. They were afraid of human power. "The signal will be modified within the hour," she said, "but not stopped. Humanity will protect what remains of our civilization." She touched a small device on her wrist, and a holographic image appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed Earth, mostly covered in smoke and ruins. "This is what your inaction allowed," she said, her voice hard. "Billions of humans dead, our homeworld devastated. You could have stopped this, but you chose to do nothing." The representatives shifted, uncomfortably. Many averted their eyes from the images. "Now, we offer you a choice," Patricia continued. "Recognize humanity as a full member of the Galactic Council, with all rights and protections, or face the consequences of opposing us." It was a bold move. Earth had only a few million survivors, mostly in off-world colonies. But the demonstration of the quantum weapon had given them leverage they desperately needed. In Antarctica, Alan Wright prepared for Phase 3. He entered a series of commands into the main quantum computer. "Reconfiguring signal pattern," he told his team. "The attack phase is ending, defense phase beginning." On screens around the laboratory, they could see the effect of their work. The quantum signal changed from a destructive wave to a protective barrier. It surrounded Earth, Mars, Europa, and the few other places where humans still lived. "Signal modified," Karen reported. "It now forms a quantum shield around human territory. Any hostile technology that crosses the shield will be disabled." Alan nodded with satisfaction. This had always been the ultimate goal of Project Nemesis, not just revenge but protection for what remained of humanity. At the same time, on the moon base, Major John Harris watched as his defensive systems came online. The quantum shield was now visible on his sensors as a faint blue line surrounding Earth's solar system. "Shield at full strength," reported Lisa White. "No Vrexian technology can penetrate it now." John smiled grimly. "Send word to all surviving human outposts. The shield is up. We are safe for now." Though billions had died, humanity would survive. And now they had the attention of the entire galaxy. On Mars, in the colony buried beneath the red soil, Governor Richard Hayes addressed the 5,000 settlers. "The quantum shield is active," he announced. "For the first time since the attack, we can focus on rebuilding rather than just surviving." A cheer went up from the crowd. These colonists had watched helplessly as Earth burned. Now they had hope. "But our work is just beginning," Richard continued. "We must rebuild our civilization. We must honor those we lost by creating a new human society, one that will never again be vulnerable to attack." Back in the council chamber, the representatives had been debating for hours. Some wanted to oppose the humans, to gather forces and break through their quantum shield. Others argued for caution. Patricia stood silently, waiting for their decision. Finally, High Counselor Zex Terrell spoke. "The Council has reached a decision. We will recognize humanity as a probationary member with limited rights and representation." It wasn't everything they had asked for, but it was a start. Patricia nodded in acceptance. In return, Zexterol continued, humanity must share the secret of quantum communication with the Council. Patricia had expected this demand. We will share limited aspects of the technology, she said, but the full capabilities of the quantum network will remain a human secret, our insurance against future aggression. Some Council members protested, but Zexterol raised his hand for silence again. Agreed, he said. The Council recognizes that humanity has earned the right to protect itself. As Patricia left the chamber, she received a message from Commander Carter. Phase 3 complete. Shield at full strength. Begin diplomatic negotiations. She smiled to herself. Earth might be damaged, but humanity was not defeated. They had shown the galaxy that underestimating humans was a deadly mistake. And now, with the quantum shield protecting them, they had time to rebuild. 6 months had passed since Project Nemesis was activated. The quantum shield still protected what remained of human territory, but the situation in the wider galaxy had grown complex. Commander William Carter looked out from the observation deck of the rebuilt space station. Below him, Earth was still mostly covered in smoke and ruins, but small green patches were starting to appear as nature reclaimed the devastated land. Lieutenant Susan Miller approached, her uniform now clean and pressed. Sir, the Galactic Council representatives have arrived. They're waiting in the conference room. William nodded and straightened his jacket. These meetings were becoming regular events as humans established their new position in galactic politics. Any word from the Mars colony? He asked as they walked toward the conference room. Governor Hayes reports that the first new dome is complete. Susan replied. They can house another 1,000 people now. That was good news. With Earth so badly damaged, Mars had become humanity's most important colony. Its population had grown from 5,000 to nearly 15,000 as survivors from Earth were transported there. The conference room was large with a round table in the center. 5 alien representatives sat on one side, watching as William entered. Ambassador. Patricia Garcia was already seated on the human side. Commander Carter, said High Counselor Zexterol, rising slightly from his seat. Thank you for meeting with us. William took his seat next to Patricia. What brings the Council to Earth today? Zexterol's 3 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of nervousness. We are concerned about the growing tensions in the occupied Vrexian territories. Since the destruction of the Vrexian military, their empire had collapsed. Dozens of species that had been under Vrexian control were now free, but fighting had broken out in many systems as they struggled for power. That's not a human problem, William said flatly. We are focused on rebuilding our civilization. Another council member, a tall being with green scales, leaned forward. But the quantum shield technology that you used against the Vrexians is now appearing in these conflicts. Several species claim to have developed similar weapons. This was troubling news. The humans had been careful to keep the details of quantum technology secret, Patricia spoke up. That's impossible. No one has the full specs of our quantum network. Yet 3 days ago, the Drazak fleet was completely disabled by a quantum pulse, said the scaled being. It was similar to what you used against the Vrexians, though much less sophisticated. William exchanged a glance with Patricia. This was unexpected and potentially dangerous. We need to investigate this, William said. If quantum weapon technology is spreading, it could destabilize the entire galaxy. Zexterol nodded. That is our concern. The Council proposes a joint mission. Humans and Council representatives working together to find the source of this technology leak. It was the first time the Council had suggested working with humans as equals. William considered the offer carefully. We accept, he said finally, but our team will be led by Dr. Alan Wright, the creator of our quantum technology. He's the only one who can verify if these new weapons are actually based on our designs. After the meeting, William contacted the Antarctic base where Alan Wright was still working. They've copied our technology? Alan asked, his face concerned on the video screen. It seems that way, William replied. But according to the Council, the copies are crude, not nearly as effective as our system. Alan shook his head. That's still troubling. The basic principles of quantum entanglement could be dangerous in the wrong hands. That's why I want you to lead this mission, William said. Take Karen and a small team. Find out who's building these weapons and how they got our technology. Alan agreed reluctantly. Though he was a scientist, not a soldier, he knew he was the best person for this task. 2 days later, a small human ship left Earth's orbit carrying Alan, Karen, and 3 security officers. They were joined by 2 council representatives, a blue-skinned Xandarian named Trell and a reptilian Drazak named Voss. Our first destination is the Centauri outpost, Alan explained as the ship accelerated away from Earth. It's a trading hub where many species meet. If anyone is selling quantum technology, we might find information there. Trell, the Xandarian, watched Alan with his 3 eyes. Dr. Wright, may I ask a personal question? Alan nodded cautiously. How does it feel to have created a weapon that destroyed an entire empire? Trell asked. The ship's cabin fell silent. The human security officers tensed, hands moving closer to their weapons. But Alan just sighed. I created a communication system, not a weapon. The Vrexians turned it into a weapon when they stole our technology and used it against us. Everything that happened was their choice. Voss, the reptilian, hissed softly. Many in the council still fear what humans might do next. Your quantum shield prevents any scans of your territory. You could be building a fleet preparing to expand like the Vrexians did. Karen Powell, who had been quietly monitoring the ship's systems, turned around. We lost 7 billion people. Our world is in ruins. We're fighting to survive, not plotting conquest. The journey to Centauri outpost took 3 days. The human ship had faster-than-light capabilities, but it was small and not designed for long voyages. When they arrived, Alan was shocked by the sight of the space station. It was enormous, at least 10 times larger than anything humans had built. Thousands of ships from different species docked along its surface. Welcome to the largest trading hub in this sector, said Trell. If information is what you seek, you'll find it here. Inside the station, Alan was overwhelmed by the diversity of alien life. Hundreds of different species moved through the crowded corridors. The air was filled with strange smells and sounds. Stay close, Karen whispered to him. It's easy to get lost here. Their first stop was a meeting with the station's security chief, a 4-armed being named Grax. In his office, surrounded by screens showing different parts of the station, Grax listened to their concerns. Quantum weapons? He said, his voice deep and rumbling. Yes, I've heard rumors. A group called the Shadowed Hand is supposedly selling such technology. The Shadowed Hand? Asked Voss. I thought they were just smugglers. Grax made a gesture that might have been a shrug. They deal in whatever brings profit. If they've acquired human quantum technology, they would certainly sell it. How do we find them? Alan asked. They have a representative on the station, Grax replied. A being named Zerk. He frequents the lower market in Section 12. With this information, the team made their way to the lower levels of the station. The corridors became narrower and darker. Fewer security officers were visible. This doesn't feel safe, Karen murmured to Alan. It isn't, replied Trell. The lower sections of these trading hubs operate under different rules. The Council's authority is limited here. In Section 12, they found a crowded marketplace where all manner of goods were being traded openly. Some looked like weapons, others like drugs or exotic animals. There, said Voss, pointing with a clawed hand. That's Zerk, the small gray, being with 6 eyes. Alan observed the alien carefully. Zerk was talking to various customers, showing them small objects that glowed with a blue light. Those devices, Alan said suddenly. They have quantum signatures similar to our technology. This confirmed their fears. Someone had indeed copied human quantum technology and was selling it openly. The human security officers moved forward, hands on their weapons, but Alan stopped them. We need information, not a confrontation, he said. Let me handle this. Alan approached Zerk alone. The small alien looked up at him with all 6 eyes. Human, Zerk said, his voice surprisingly deep. One. Rare to see your kind here. What do you seek? Alan pointed to the glowing devices. I'm interested in those. They appear to use quantum entanglement. Zerk's eyes narrowed. You have good eyes, human. Yes, these are quantum communicators. Very valuable. Very rare. Where did you get the technology? Alan asked casually. That is not your concern, Zerk replied. Do you wish to buy, or are you wasting my time? Alan was about to press further when a loud explosion rocked the marketplace. People and aliens scattered in panic. We're under attack, shouted Karen from behind him. 6 armed beings had entered the market, firing weapons at random. When they spotted Alan, they changed direction and headed straight for him. They're after the human, Zerk squealed, gathering his devices and diving under a table. The security officers returned fire, creating cover for Alan to retreat. Trell and Voss also drew weapons and joined the fight. Back to the ship, ordered the lead security officer. As they fought their way back through the corridors, Alan realized this was no random attack. Someone knew they were investigating the quantum technology and wanted to stop them. When they finally reached their ship, 2 of the security officers were wounded. As they prepared for emergency departure, Alan looked out the viewport and saw more armed ships approaching the station. We need to warn Earth, he said urgently. This is bigger than we thought. Someone isn't just copying our technology, they're organizing against us. As their ship undocked and accelerated away from the station, they detected several vessels in pursuit. 4 ships heavily armed, reported Karen from the sensor console. They're gaining on us. Can we outrun them? Asked Alan. Alan Wright, Karen Powell, and the Xandarian Trell moved quickly through the service corridors of the Galactic Council's main station. Few people were in these areas, which allowed them to reach the central computer core without being noticed. Here, said Trell, stopping at a large door with alien symbols on it. This is the main access point for the Council's defensive systems. He placed his 3-fingered hand on a scanner, and the door slid open. Inside was a room filled with machines unlike anything Alan had seen before. Lights blinked in patterns he couldn't understand, and the walls were covered with screens showing different parts of the station. Amazing, Karen whispered. Their technology is so different from ours. Trell moved to a central console. I can give you access to the basic systems, but the security protocols may be difficult for you to understand. Alan nodded and took out a small device he had brought from Earth. This translator should help. It contains information about all the alien computer systems we've studied. While they worked to understand the Council's computer system, Commander William Carter and his security team were making their way to the coordinates Zerk had provided. They moved through busy parts of the station, trying to look like normal. Visitors, stay casual, William told his team. We don't want to attract attention. The asteroid field where Zexteral's weapon was supposedly hidden was visible through the large windows of the station. Thousands of rocks of different sizes floated in space, making a perfect hiding place. According to the data, the weapon is in a hollowed-out asteroid near the center of the field, said the security officer, checking the information. We'll need a ship to reach it. William nodded. Voss said he would arrange transportation. Let's get to docking bay 12. As they changed direction toward the docking bays, William noticed several Council security officers watching them. Had their presence been discovered? Don't look now, but I think we're being followed, he said quietly to his team. Be ready for anything. Back in the computer core, Alan was making progress. With Karen's help and Trell's access codes, he had managed to interface his quantum technology with the Council's systems. I understand their defense grid now, he said after an hour of work. It's actually not that different from ours in basic principles. I can modify it to detect and block quantum weapons. Trell watched nervously. How long will this take? A few hours, Alan replied. But once it's done, the entire station and surrounding space will be protected from quantum attacks. And Zexateral's weapon? Karen asked. If he tries to activate it, the shield will disable it immediately. Trell's communication device suddenly beeped. He checked it and his 3 eyes widened in alarm. Zexateral's ship has returned early, he said. We have less time than we thought. This was bad news. If Zexateral discovered them before the shield was activated, everything would fail. Keep working, Karen told Alan. I'll guard the door. She took out her weapon and moved to the entrance of the room, prepared to defend it if necessary. Meanwhile, William and his team had reached the docking bay. Voss was waiting with a small ship ready. We must hurry, the reptilian said. Zex Taral has returned to the station ahead of schedule. As they boarded the ship, William noticed more security officers entering the docking bay. We've been compromised, he told Voss. Can you get us out of here? Voss moved to the ship's controls. Yes, but it will not be subtle. The ship's engines roared to life, and it lifted off before the docking bay doors were fully open. Alarm sirens began to sound throughout the station. So, much for a quiet operation, William muttered. Let's just hope Alan has enough time to get the shield working. Voss piloted the ship skillfully into the asteroid field, dodging the floating rocks as they searched for the hidden weapon. There, said one of the security officers, pointing to a large asteroid that looked slightly different from the others. Its surface is too smooth, it's artificial. Voss guided the ship closer. Indeed, what looked like a normal asteroid from a distance was actually a disguised structure. A hidden door was visible on one side. How do we get in? William asked. Voss smiled, showing sharp teeth. I obtained the access codes from Zerk before we left. The traitor was very cooperative when I explained what would happen if he wasn't. The door opened as they approached, allowing the ship to enter a large hangar inside the fake asteroid. As they landed, William looked around in shock. The entire asteroid was hollow, filled with advanced technology. In the center was a massive device, clearly the quantum weapon they were looking for. A dozen technicians of different alien species were working on it. Stay in the ship, William ordered. I'm going to set charges to destroy that thing. But before he could move, the technicians noticed their arrival. Alarms began to sound inside the asteroid base as well. So much for surprise, William said grimly. Plan B it is. Everyone out. Take control of that weapon. The security team burst from the ship, weapons ready. The technicians, not being soldiers, quickly surrendered. William approached the central device, studying it carefully. This is definitely a quantum weapon, much larger than anything we've built. One of the technicians, a small blue alien, spoke up. It is designed to affect an entire solar system at once. High Counselor Zex Taral plans to use it tomorrow against the Centauri sector. William was horrified. The Centauri sector had dozens of inhabited worlds. Billions of beings would die if this weapon was used. Can you disable it? He asked the technician. The alien hesitated. Yes, but the system has safeguards. If tampered with, it will send an alert to Zex Taral. Do it anyway, William ordered. We need to buy time for Alan to get the shield working. Back on the council station, Alan was working as quickly as he could. The quantum shield program was nearly ready, but he needed a few more minutes to fully integrate it with the council's systems. Security forces are heading this way, Karen reported from the door. We have maybe 5 minutes. Trell looked nervous. If we're caught, Zex Taral will execute all of us. Treason against the High Counselor is punishable by death. We're not going to get caught, Alan said firmly. The program is almost ready. Once activated, the quantum shield will protect the entire station and expose Zex Taral's plan. On the main council chamber, High Counselor Zex Taral was addressing the emergency council. His 3 eyes gleamed with false concern as he spoke. Reports indicate that humans have created more quantum weapons, he told the assembled representatives. Our intelligence suggests they plan to attack the council itself. The chamber erupted in worried voices. Representatives from 50 species discussed this alarming news. What do you propose, High Counselor? Asked one. Zex Taral's mouth formed. What passed for a smile. I have taken the liberty of preparing a preemptive strike. We must disable the human quantum network before they can use it against us. What he didn't say was that his preemptive strike would also disable the defenses of any species that might oppose his takeover of the council. Ambassador Patricia Garcia had been sitting quietly at the back of the chamber. Now she stood up. The High Counselor is lying, she said loudly. All eyes turned to her. Humans have not created new weapons. We have been investigating the spread of quantum technology throughout the galaxy. Zexteral's eyes narrowed. Ambassador Garcia, you have no evidence for these claims. Actually, I do, Patricia replied. She activated a small device projecting images into the center of the chamber. These are records provided by a trader named Zerk, showing that you, High Counselor, have been manufacturing and selling quantum weapons. Zexteral's security guards moved toward Patricia, but several other council members blocked their path. The evidence was too clear to ignore. This is outrageous, Zexteral shouted. These records are fabricated. Are they? Patricia asked calmly. Then you won't mind if we investigate the asteroid base where your weapon is hidden? Zexteral's three eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of extreme stress for his species. He reached for a device on his wrist. It's too late, he snarled. My weapon is already armed. With one signal, I can destroy any world that opposes me. He pressed the button on his wrist device, but nothing happened. He pressed it again, growing more frantic. Looking for this? Said a voice from the chamber entrance. Alan Wright stood there holding a small device. Your quantum weapon has been neutralized, High Counselor, and the quantum shield now protects this station and all surrounding space. Zexteral howled in rage and pulled out a weapon. I will not be stopped by primitive humans. Before he could fire, Voss appeared behind him and knocked the weapon from his hand. William Carter and the security team entered the chamber, surrounding Zexteral. High Counselor Zexteral, said a senior council member, rising from his seat. You are relieved of your position and placed under arrest for conspiracy against the council. Guards that had once obeyed Zexteral now turned against him, leading him away in restraints. William approached Patricia and Alan. The weapon has been disabled, he reported. The technicians are cooperating fully. They've provided evidence against Zexteral and his allies. The senior council member, an elderly being named Yorl, approached the humans. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I offer our sincere apologies. We allowed fear to cloud our judgment. Patricia nodded acceptance of the apology. What happens now?